Good evening, you're watching News Mongolian World. I'm your host, Andra Batter. And for top stories, Mongolian chess player won gold at the FIDE Chess Olympiad 2022. The Chinggis Khan Museum will open in September. Mongolia is cooperating with Russia in space exploration. And for the news, stay tuned. Mongolian chess player won gold at the FIDE Chess Olympiad 2022 in the individual category. Her achievement marked an historic moment in Mongolian chess.
17-year-old chess player Mongolian National has won gold from the Biennial Chess Olympiad organized by the International Chess Federation. The 44th edition took place in Chennai, India from July 28th till August 10th. She played 10 games, scoring 8 wins, 1 draw and 1 loss. With an 85% performance, she became the best player on the 4th board and achieved gold with that outstanding performance.
In the future, I want to hold the Mongolian flag once more at the international stage. I will do my best at the next large-scale competitions.
Mongolian is a resident of Orkhon Province. The governor of Orkhon Province awarded her with a one-room apartment for her achievement. She started playing chess at the age of 5. She says her biggest influences were her father and brother. At 2022 FIDE Chess Olympiad, the Mongolian women's team finished in 15th place from a total 162 teams from 160 countries. It is also a historical team achievement in chess for Mongolia.
The Chinggis Khan Museum will open to the public in September. The museum showcases historical periods and valuable artifacts from Mongolian history.
The museum consists of 6 halls. The Hall of Mongolian Pride features the achievements of Mongolians and their contribution to world history. Around 11,000 artifacts will be on display at the museum. 10% of them are regarded as precious artifacts of high value.
Here we have displayed some clothing. These are 200 years old. When folded, cotton materials tend to wear. Therefore, they should be kept unfolded. Bright lights and excessive moisture should also be avoided.
The Chinggis Khan Museum has a collection storage facility that meets international standards. Some artifacts are kept in a cooler place, while others are stored in special drawers.
Our museum is built with high-end storage facilities which have a balanced temperature and moist environment. We have 6 storage areas, laboratories and special cases for keeping wooden, paper and cotton artifacts. The museum is fully equipped with the latest appliances.
The museum will display Mongolian history starting from the Hunnu era right up to the Bogd era. It is planned to be opened in September.
Medical facilities have a shortage of nurses. Working nurses often have to double shifts.
Chimik works as a nurse with newly born babies in Siling province. She says she forgets any hardships when she hears the crying sounds of a newborn baby. Being an obstetric nurse is a demanding profession which sometimes requires overnight stays at the workplace. The thing that gives her energy and patience is her love for the job. The reason I chose this profession is that newborn babies are just a bundle of happiness. I feel so happy for parents who are newly welcoming their boys or girls. It feels great when I help people who genuinely need it. I really love to hear the words "thank you" from my recovered patients. I started handling my baby on my own 10 days after giving birth. In the meantime, I saw how important the work is of obstetric nurses. They took care of the babies as if they were their own. For Chimik, the workload she has to cope with is her greatest challenge. There were times she wanted to give up due to the stress at the workplace, but she always strives to continue working without any pause.
Our maternity ward requires lots of manual work. Our nurses take special care and provide treatment more than nurses from other wards. The obstetricians and nurses are constantly busy caring for the patients.
At this maternity hospital in Siling province, there are 8 obstetricians and 4 obstetric nurses. In other words, 1 nurse works with 2 obstetricians. Even though that's the standard number, there were days she has to fill in for employees on leave. The shortage of nurses is an issue in many provincial areas.
Here's the currency exchange rates provided by Mongol Bank. Now let's take a look at Mongolia's current affairs.
A memorandum of understanding was signed between the Ministry of Digital Development and Communications and Roscosmos, a state corporation of the Russian Federation. The event was organized virtually in accordance with the proposal to start a new era of industry cooperation, which was discussed on December 16, 2021, during the official meeting of the President of Mongolia and the President of the Russian Federation, as well as part of the 100th anniversary of the establishment of diplomatic relations between Russia and Mongolia. The memorandum was signed by the State Secretary of the Ministry of Digital Development and Communications, the Secretary of the National Space Council, Bollariten, and Deputy General Director of International Cooperation of the Roscosmos State Corporation of the Russian Federation, Mr. Savelyev Sergei Valentinovich. Within the scope of this cooperation, the parties will work together in the fields of research and use of outer space for peaceful purposes, preparing and launching the first female astronaut of Mongolia, and intensifying cooperation in the field of space research. The International Trade Center welcomed a delegation from Mongolia as a part of visit to Switzerland organized by the Strengthening Representative Bodies in Mongolia project, supported by the Swiss Cooperation in Mongolia. Mr. Byamsurang, Deputy Head of Cabinet Secretariat of the Government of Mongolia, led the meeting and discussed cooperation as well as exchanged views. In Mongolia, ITC has facilitated the formulation of the Mongolian Trade and Investment Roadmap for 2019 to 2023, which was developed jointly by the government and the private sector, and which supports the country's objectives for economic and exports diversification. Also, the International Trade Center plans to jointly organize with Government of Mongolia the World Export Development Forum, which will take place in Ulaanbaatar, May-June 2023.
Thank you for staying with us. Now let's take a look at our international news from our partner agencies. United Nations spokesperson Stephanie Dujarric announced on Tuesday that Secretary General Antonio Guterres will be in Lviv on Thursday to meet with President Recep Tayyip Erdogan of Turkey and the Ukrainian leader Volodymyr Zelensky.
Dujarric also said that Guterres will also visit Odessa and Istanbul to see one of the ports involved in the Black Sea Grain Initiative and the Joint Coordination Center set up to implement it. The Black Sea Grain Initiative was set up to allow Ukraine to export food commercially from the key Black Sea ports Odessa, Chernomorsk, and Yuzhny.
U.S. President Joe Biden signed Democrats' landmark change and healthcare bill into law on Tuesday, delivering what he has called the final piece of his pared-down domestic agenda, as he aims to boost his party's standing with voters less than 3 months before the midterm elections.
In a triumphant signing event at the White House, Biden pointed to the law as proof that democracy, no matter how long or messy the process, can still deliver for voters in America, as he road-tested a line he'll likely repeat later this fall: the American people won and the special interests lost.
And I'm about to sign the Inflation Reduction Act into law, one of the most significant laws in our history. Let me say from the start, with this law, the American people won and the special interests lost. The American people won and the special interests lost.
The legislation includes the most substantial federal investment in history to fight climate change, some $375 billion over the decade, and would cap prescription drug costs at $2,000 out of pocket annually for Medicare recipients. It also would help an estimated 13 million Americans pay for health care insurance by extending subsidies provided during the coronavirus pandemic. The measure is paid for by new taxes on large companies and stepped up IRS enforcement of wealthy individuals and entities, with additional funds going to reduce the federal deficit. The House on Friday approved the measure on a party line 220 to 207 vote. It passed the Senate days earlier with Vice President Kamala Harris breaking a 50-50 tie in that chamber. The signing caps a spurt of legislative productivity for Biden and Congress, who in 3 months have approved legislation on veterans' benefits, the semiconductor industry, and gun checks for young buyers. The president and lawmakers have also responded to Russia's invasion of Ukraine and overwhelmingly supported NATO membership for Sweden and Finland.
Ukraine and Poland on Tuesday reopened one of the busiest border crossings between them, the Korchowa-Kharkovets, after it was shut down for around a month to upgrade the facility and increase the capacity.
Land border crossings have become more crucial to Ukraine since much of the east and south was occupied by Russian forces, and the ports of Odessa and Mykolaiv, a key backbone of the Ukrainian export economy, have been outfitted with mines to defend against the naval Russian takeover. The reopening of the border was attended by Ukraine's Infrastructure Minister Alexander Kubrakov and Michał Dworczyk, the Polish Prime Minister's chief of staff. The restoration of bus services will relieve the burden on other checkpoints and minimize queues for passengers crossing the border. The terminal will be able to receive up to 30 buses daily. They have already increased the number of lanes for trucks from 4 to 10 and created additional pavilions for customs and passport control. Previously, Ukraine and Poland within the Open Border Project had agreed to increase the throughput capacity of the border crossing by at least 50%.
The U.S. Air Force says an unarmed Minuteman-3 intercontinental ballistic missile was launched from California only Tuesday in a routine test of the weapon system.
Minuteman III ballistic missile.
The missile blasted off from coastal Vandenberg Space Force Base at 12:49 a.m. and its re-entry vehicle traveled about 4,200 miles or 6,700 kilometers over the Pacific to the Kwajalein Atoll in the Marshall Islands. Test launches verified the accuracy and reliability of the system, and Vandenberg's statement said. The Air Force says test launches are scheduled well in advance and are not a reaction to world events.
200 miles.
Now let's take a look at our regular feature on sports. Dynamo Kiev's players trained on Tuesday ahead of their Champions League qualifying playoff first leg tie against former European champions Benfica in Łódź, Poland on Tuesday. It promises to be an emotional occasion on Wednesday after wins over Fenerbahce of Turkey and Austrian Sturm Graz in their previous round. Dynamo are one tie away from a fairy tale appearance in the group stages, despite the difficulties presented to them against the backdrop of the war against Russia in their own country. It's very important for me, for our team, because we will play not for our surnames, but we will play for our Ukraine, for our soldiers and for our heroes. Because if we win, it will be good emotions for them. They look after our safety, our country and our home.
I have to say thank you to my players, because in these conditions they succeeded to have a very good result against Fenerbahce and against Sturm Graz. And we have, I hope to continue with this, because the Champions League is so important, and they are feeling the responsibility for all the other supporters from Ukraine. What will be here? Yes, we have no our own supporter who will come here. It's only to be together. Will be a lot of children, will be a lot of women, mama with the children, to be together, because it's very difficult for them to live like refugees. For this, we have this responsibility for them, to feel them in the good condition, and to go at home after with good enthusiasm and to be happy.
Dynamo's 4 Champions League qualifying games in the past 20 days are the only competitive matches they have played all year, mainly with depleted squads. Australia's Nick Kyrgios defeated Spain's Alejandro Davidovich Fokina in straight sets by 7-5 and 6-4 in 1 hour and 31 minutes to reach the second round at the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati on Tuesday. Another week, another strong start for Nick Kyrgios in 2022. The Australian improved his record in the first round matches this year to 11-0 with a 7-5 and 6-4 victory against Alejandro Davidovich Fokina at the Western and Southern Open in Cincinnati on Tuesday. Kyrgios, who reached his sole ATP Masters 1000 final in Cincinnati in 2017, struggled for consistency at times during his 90-minute win, but he was clinical in converting 3 of 4 break points during his maiden ATP head-to-head clash against Davidovich Fokina. Kyrgios had enjoyed a 9-match winning streak prior to his defeat last week to Hubert Hurkacz in the Montreal quarterfinals. The Australian was happy to immediately return to winning ways, despite having to make some adjustments in his first match in Cincinnati since 2019. As Serena Williams lost 2 matches in a row since announcing the countdown has begun on her career, losing 6-4 and 6-0 to US Open champion Emma Raducanu in the Western and Southern Open on Tuesday night. The 40-year-old Williams said last week in a Vogue magazine essay and on an Instagram post that her career was winding down, although she did not explicitly say the US Open, which begins August 29th in New York, would be her last tournament. The Cincinnati event was the second US Open tune-up for Williams, and the next time she takes the court will be the Flushing Meadows. She lost to Belinda Bencic in a straight sets last week in Toronto. A day before the announcement, Williams beat Nuria Paredes-Diaz for her first match win since the 2021 French Open. Williams briskly left the court after the 1 hour and 5 minute match against Raducanu, waving to the crowd as she exited. Here's the weather forecast of world's major cities. Well, that's all for today, and thank you for staying with us. We will see you tomorrow with more news and updates. Have a nice evening. Goodbye.